Hello everyone and welcome to our English class. We all tell stories about our days, about our childhood, or maybe about the actions, about the events that had happened earlier in the past. So today we are going to focus on a very useful tense that is useful to tell stories, and that tense is the past perfect tense. So first we will see what is the use of this tense and how the tense is formed. So let's see the first use. The use of this tense is used to talk of an action that had happened earlier before another action. Means there would be two actions in the past. In case there are two actions in the past, so one action had happened before the second one. So for the first action that had happened earlier in the past, we use past perfect tense. So you can say that it is used for past in the past. So the structure of the sentence is very easy. It is quite simple. We have to use had as an auxiliary verb plus past participle form. Past participle form. Past participle form. This is auxiliary verb, and auxiliaries verb are grammatical words which are always connected to the subject of the sentence. I mean to say that they always change their form according to the subject, but here in this tense had doesn't change its form whether the subject is singular or it is plural. So whatever subject you are putting here, the auxiliary verb had will remain same, but we will come through the contraction, how we use the contraction and how we pronounce it. That is very important to us. So if we use had with I had is equal to I'd. We pronounce it I'd. So I'd is pronounced with contraction. I had. So like this, he had is pronounced he'd, and she had is pronounced she'd. You had is pronounced you'd. They had is pronounced they'd. And it had, it is a little bit tricky and it is pronounced it. So these are the contractions. So you can pronounce it I'd, he'd, she'd, you'd, they'd, it. You can say it. Now let's see a few examples so that we can make it clear how we can use this tense and what are the contexts where we can use this tense. So I told you that if two actions had happened earlier in the past, so for the first action that had happened earlier before the second one, we use past perfect tense for the first action and simple past for the second action. So I write here he had reached home before it started raining. So you can see here there are two actions. He had reached home, and the second action is it started raining. So which action has happened first? You have to notice which action has happened first. First he had reached home, and after that, when he had reached home, after that it started raining. So the first action is that one, this one, and the second action is this one. So according to the grammar rule, we used past perfect tense for the first action, or the action that had happened earlier, and for the second action that had happened after the first action we use simple past tense. We can see more example like Hamid left for home before his parcel arrived. So when had Hamid left home? Hamid had left home before his parcel arrived. Means the parcel arrived after Hamid left home. So it is the first action. It is the work that had happened earlier, and that action had happened after the first action. So we used past perfect tense here in this tense. We can have some more examples. Rashid's cat killed the pigeon before we saw it. Means the first action was Rashid's cat killed the pigeon, and after that we saw it. Means the action had happened before we saw it. So for the first action we use the past perfect tense, and for the second one we use simple past tense. I hope you have gotten it, how to use the past perfect tense and where to use the past perfect tense. So now we will see if we have to make a negative of this tense. So what we do to form negative sentences? To form negative sentences, we always use not after the auxiliary verb. So after the auxiliary verb we will use not, means after the auxiliary verb and before the past participle. You know, past participle is called third form of the verb. So it is third form of the verb. So between had means between the auxiliary verb and between the main verb, we will use not to make them negative. So if we want to make them negative, we can say the train hadn't left before we reached the station. So this is the contraction hadn't. Likewise we can contract other things. I hadn't, we hadn't, he hadn't, she hadn't, they hadn't, and it hadn't. It hadn't. These are the form of contraction. You hadn't. So if you want to speak, means while speaking English we use contraction, while writing English too we use contraction, but always it is seen that while speaking we use contractions much and more. So these are the contraction which we use. Means we use hadn't, means had not is hadn't. The contraction, the short form of the had not is hadn't. If we want to make questions in this tense, so we can use had, the auxiliary verb, before the subject. Means we use the auxiliary verb before the subject to make question, like had he informed you before he fired you. It is question. So we have used had, the auxiliary verb had, before the subject he to make it question. If we need to add some question word, then we can add the question word first. We will use first question word, then auxiliary verb had, then subject, then the past participle form, and then object or other word. So I hope now you got the idea where to use past perfect tense and how to construct this sentence, the sentences in this tense. So that's all for today, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day.